Newt Gingrich is with us. He has another best-selling book. It just hit bookstores. It's called Trump's America, The Truth About Our Nation's Great Comeback. And he will be, by the way, at Barnes & Noble in Ashburn, Virginia tonight at 7 o'clock. He's given a speech and a book signing there. Mr. Speaker, welcome back. And I think it's obvious that from the very beginning, listening to the hearings today, everything that we said, everything that we told people, everything we investigated and reported has now been proven true. What do you make of it in light of the IG report?
Well, first of all, you're right. And if they gave out Pulitzer Prizes for talk show hosts, you would be earning one for the most accurate and insightful coverage of this entire national scandal.
By the way,
it's been going on now for 3 or 4 years.
It's horrible, and I wish I was wrong, but they literally treated her. They gave her special treatment where anybody else in America would be indicted. That's not equal justice under the law or equal application of our laws.
No, and I think you have got to look carefully at the depth of what we're dealing with here. I suspect that the length of time it took to get the Inspector General's report out was because Rosenstein and others were pressuring the Inspector General to tone down the report. And this is the toned-down version in which he carefully states facts that they couldn't get him to fudge on, but he doesn't draw any conclusions. So, as I understand it, he has one guy who I think is unnamed who says "Viva la resistance" after Trump wins. As you point out, he has Strzok saying, we're going to guarantee he never gets to the White House. You have Strzok saying the president personally wants to get briefed on this, meaning Obama. Now, you go through those things and you think to yourself, how much clearer does it have to get? And what you have, of course, is a desperate effort by the deep state to protect itself from what's going to be an increasingly angry country. There's one topic I'd like to drill down on and hopefully get either Grassley or Goodlatte to really dig into, and that is to find the series of documents that led them to give immunity to the guy who used a hammer on the cell phones and used bleach bit on the hard drives. And why did he get immunity? I think just getting us to understand in that one fixed case, how could they possibly conclude that that was not willful destruction of evidence and a deliberate effort to protect Hillary in violation of the law? And I think that's the kind of thing as we keep, you remember I've been saying now for 6 or 8 months, they're going to keep peeling back the onion. You're going to see more and more things unravel, and each one's going to lead to something else. And I think that this is going to become, and you heard it again just now with Lindsey Graham, who is basically frustrated because they're still hiding stuff.
Well, look at all the other agents.
Of America.
This isn't Strzok and Page. One agent adamant the fix was in. Another agent laughing that Hillary's IT guy lied his ass off in the interview with him. Screw you, Trump. Another agent, I'm going to be walking around with both my guns and likely quitting on the spot if Donald Trump wins. And it goes on from there. It goes on and on and on.
Well, remember that among political contributions in 2016, 97% of the Justice Department donations went to Hillary Clinton. And remember that this also extends into the Mueller investigation because one of his most aggressive lawyer was at Hillary's victory party, which turned out not to work very well. But he was there that night.
That's Andrew Weissman. And then you have Jeannie Ray, who worked on the Clinton Foundation. And then you have, you don't have equal application under the law, Mr. Speaker. That's a problem in America.
Well, and I think it's something we've got to keep digging into and tearing apart and forcing more and more facts to come to the surface. And then people, I think, will gradually have to render judgment. But I think the president's involved. I think the attorney general was involved. It's quite clear the head of the FBI was involved. And it's clear that it reached down into the very senior ranks. And again, out of the thousands of FBI agents, we're talking about a handful who were clearly doing things that are, I think, frightening. this is not just. There have always been problems, and you always have a danger of police powers being used inappropriately. But when you get to the highest level of the American system, and a new president can be explicitly being undermined and potentially destroyed by the police power of the state, that's really sobering about how sick the system has gotten.
You know, you even have the lead investigator, we learn in this report, not Strzok, but the lead investigator calling Hillary president. I'm done interviewing the president. This is when they finally interviewed Hillary, just 3 days before they exonerated her, but the exoneration letter was written in May. This is July of 2016. Quote, you interviewed the president? You know, Hillary Rodham Clinton, future president. Trump can't win. Demographics don't line up. America's changed. And that's how they viewed it. And they also, there was the one exchange between Strzok and Page, beyond calling Trump loathsome and every name they can think of, where they said, well, you don't want to piss her off when you interview her. Go in there with kid gloves on. You know, don't go in there ready to go for bear here.
Yeah, look, that's an important thing for people to remember. The Clintons have a long history of being vindictive and being very, very tough. And everybody in the Justice Department, everybody, assumed Hillary was the next president. So they're dealing with this thing. I mean, she is doing things that are so obviously not just absurdly breaking the law. But you go back and look at some of those early press conferences where she talks about she doesn't know what bleach bit is, and is that something you use in the kitchen? And she goes through a whole bunch of seemingly cute comments, which are actually, I think, indications of how really over the top she's gotten in thinking she can get away with it.
Yeah, well, look, there's a certain arrogance there that nobody can deny. I mean, you know, at this point, I mean, I don't think there's any other option here. Where is Jeff Sessions? Where's the special prosecutor to probe how his Department of Justice now, how his FBI, I mean, I found Director Wray, and I agree with him. I mean, he went out and he defended all the good work that the FBI does, and I've always said this isn't the rank and file. I think actually the rank and file will be the heroes here, but there's such an abuse of power in all of this, and the idea that Peter Strzok, that's now the leading, one of the top guys at human resources at the FBI, because he hasn't lost his job, that they're going to retrain people is somehow the answer, isn't the answer. They literally helped fix it. They helped rig an investigation, a presidential investigation, to support one candidate who should have been indicted and then hurt any way they could another candidate. And then that raises questions. What do we do with the Mueller probe?
Oh, well, but let's go through step by step here. First of all, they should go through and fire all the people who were engaged in doing things that were illegal or totally inappropriate. They should be gone. Second, and some of those I think are obviously going to face various criminal charges. Second, the number one job of the FBI and the Justice Department right now should be cleaning up its own house. So I'm glad they do lots of good things. I agree with you, they do lots of good things. That's not the number one job of the new director. The number one job of the new director is getting at the truth about what happened, how did it happen, who did it, and what do we need to do to clean it up?
Remember, this was about stopping Trump. The words were said. No, was he's never going to become president, right? No, we'll stop it. And then we have an insurance policy.
Remember, it's also about saving Hillary.
Well, that's stopping Trump by saving Hillary in the first place.
Right, I'm just saying. So they have two things going on in their heads. They're going to save Hillary because she's going to be the next president. And they're going to stop Trump because he's too horrible to contemplate. And they're working both sides of the street. So Hillary's people can get away with anything and do. I mean, it is astonishing what they refuse to investigate when it comes down to everything she'd been doing and her staff had been doing.
We've got to take a quick break here. Newt Gingrich is, by the way, he's going to be in Virginia tonight giving a speech and a book signing, Barnes & Noble in Ashburn, Virginia. Trump's America, The Truth About Our Nation's Great Comeback. Hannity.com, Amazon.com, bookstores everywhere. Quick break. We'll talk more about that at 7 o'clock tonight. If you want to go, we'll put it up on our website. All right, at the bottom of the hour, Sarah Carter and attorney David Schoen will be with us reacting to these hearings. Newt Gingrich is with us. New book is out, Trump's America, The Truth About Our Nation's Great Comeback. New York Times bestseller just out last week. And, by the way, he'll be at Barnes & Noble in Ashburn, Virginia tonight at 7 o'clock. What's the reaction to the book, and are you going to be talking about this tonight?
Well, look, it's been a great reaction to the book. The first half talks about what we have accomplished. The second half talks about the great challenges ahead. There's a strong chapter on space, and I note today that the president indicated we're going to set up a brand new space organization that will be designed to give us absolute leadership in space in terms of military and national security. So I think there's a lot of the people who've read the book. Many of them have said it's maybe the...
I've got a break. Hey, listen, you're welcome to stay. Do you want to take some questions from our audience? Sure. You're very welcome.
Sure.
All right, we'll take a break. More with Newt Gingrich. He's at Barnes & Noble, Ashburn, Virginia tonight, 7 o'clock. He'll take your calls next, 800-941-SEAN. Newt Gingrich is with us. Brand new book is out. Bestseller already. Trump's America, The Truth About Our Nation's Great Comeback. He's going to be at the Barnes & Noble speaking and signing tonight in Ashburn, Virginia. It's up on my website if you want the exact location, Hannity.com. I listened to that and I listened, Ray is it's almost like he's being clever. On the one hand, he's saying that, there's no political bias that we found impacting the decision, but his entire report exposes political bias at the highest levels, and it is rampant.
What I'm struck by is if you're a prosecutor, you take the data we already have, and you know the case you're going to present to the jury. If you're a defense lawyer, you take the case we have, and you know what you're going to present to the jury. And what you get out of the top guys at the Justice Department are defense lawyers. They're saying to us, well, maybe they said all these crazy things, maybe they behaved all these crazy ways, maybe they were really too soft on Hillary, maybe they've been too aggressive on Trump, but after all, we can't look into their hearts. So we really can't tell you. I mean, this is crazy. And no reasonable person, I think, can believe that this is, in fact, an acceptable way to do things. And I really do think that Attorney General Sessions at some point has to seize control of this. I mean, it is an embarrassment. And again, I'm sure that Mr. Wray is doing everything he can to clean up the FBI, at least at its image. But he's not doing everything he can to clean up the FBI. He's not fairing the people. He's not cooperating with Congress. He's not making sure the information gets to the House and Senate members and to the American people who deserve, to know exactly what was going on.
We're going to take calls for the speaker. We'll start in Orlando, our affiliate down there, News Radio 96.5. Jeff is in Orlando. Jeff, hi. How are you? Glad you called. You're on with Newt Gingrich. What's going on?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good, sir.
Good. I wanted to ask Mr. Speaker, does he believe that Trump has really exposed that both parties are really a bunch of people that are all in the same club, and they keep their power, and whatever's best for them, if it trickles down to us, that's one thing, but it's never about what's best for us as the people, that they're all in the same old club. One side is all liberal, one side claims to be conservative, but most of them are in the same club. The way Sessions just is a no-show, and now the way Mr. Gowdy is changing the way he speaks because it's messing up the big club.
I don't think that's what's happening. I can appreciate your feeling that way, and certainly if you look at some of the never-Trump Republicans, they fit exactly your description. But if you look at for example, Senator Grassley as the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, he has been very firm. Congressman Goodlatte, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Congressman Nunes, who has shown great courage and stood up when he was under enormous pressure. So I think it's a little more complicated than your description. And I do think that it's fair to say that there are people really trying to get to the truth who are really troubled by this. Sometimes I don't fully understand what Trey Gowdy is saying, but he comes out of a background of having been a U.S. attorney, having been a prosecutor.
Well, Gowdy's taken a very, just to let you know, Mr. Speaker, he's taken a very, very hard line as it relates to this and vowed over the weekend to use the full arsenal of constitutional weapons to get the documents that had been subpoenaed by Congress. And finally, apparently, I'm being told by my sources that you had a meeting with Rosenstein and others, and the Freedom Caucus deserves a lot of credit, too. They're saying they're going to start the impeachment process if the DOJ doesn't start turning over the documents that they have now demanded and subpoenaed for a long time that has been obstructed.
Yeah, I saw Gowdy on one show Sunday, and he was very tough and very clear, and I think was saying exactly the right things. And apparently, Speaker Ryan hosted a meeting where he and Gowdy were both extremely tough with the administration and indicating that the House is the House is going to absolutely insist on its right of oversight, which, of course, is central to our constitutional system. I mean, all these people who worry about Donald Trump somehow doing something inappropriate, it's the Justice Department, it's the FBI, which has been doing the things that are inappropriate. It is the deep state and the executive branch, not the Congress, which has been the problem here. And I think, you're getting more and more pressure. You'll notice in the Senate hearings today, you had Senator Grassley and others really pushing them about when they're going to sit and get the information they deserve to hear.
I said it immediately when I was reading it. I was in Singapore, and I was reading it. We had about an hour to read this report before it came out, and we were sifting through it all throughout the show, is that this is the swamp protecting the swamp. And Inspector General Horowitz says, all right, well, that's not our role to second-guess the decision-making and the prosecutorial decisions, but this is just an irrefutable fact, is that no American that did what Hillary did would have gotten away with what she got away with. And now we know the people at the top level of the investigation were the ones protecting her that had a massive political hatred for Trump and a love for her.
Well, and I want to go back to what may require an additional investigation, but as I raised this earlier in the show today, I think the most interesting and impossible to explain decision was granting full immunity to the guy who was using a hammer to break up phones and using bleach bit to destroy the hard drive of computers. And he gets full immunity?
Did you see?
I mean, I really want to see the paper trail that led to that decision.
So 2 weeks ago, and I know you've been busy and you've been out on your book tour. 2 weeks ago, I'm on the television program, and I say in the monologue, now, if it was the day that Robert Mueller insisted that anybody that he was investigating hand over their phones. And I said, well, if, big word, I had suggested to those people that they might want to delete the emails and acid wash the hard drive with bleach bit and have an aide bust up their devices into itsy-bitsy pieces and remove the SIM cards and hand it over to Robert Mueller and say the words Hillary Clinton, equal justice under the law. I said, look, I said it's not going to work out well for you. It would be a dumb idea. And I also said, I'm kidding. I don't mean for you to do this. And the amount of outrage by the left saying that Hannity's trying to obstruct justice. Well, I said I'd never said to do it. I was obviously being sarcastic. And the outrage over the fact that I might say that to somebody was, I think, it illustrates how bad it is because they wanted to throw me in jail for what she actually had done.
You know, it does make you think maybe we ought to put together the Hillary Clinton defense paper that lists everything that she did and says maybe this ought to be the new standard.
Well, that's the point.
That is the point. I mean, it clearly can't be the new standard. It clearly was illegal. And if you're going to have the rule of law, you can't let people get away with this. But that is precisely what they were doing in the Justice Department. They were allowing a potential president to get away with things that were stunningly corrupting.
You know, Mark said the other day, Levin, the great one, he actually said that what happened here is much worse. There's more interference by the FBI in our last election than was ever that the Russians could have ever dreamed of doing. There was election interference, and on top of it, Hillary did pay for Russian propaganda, through funneled money, through a law firm, into Fusion GPS, into a foreign national who in an interrogatory said that his dossier, well, maybe is 50-50 because it wasn't really vetted. Then that became the basis of a FISA warrant.
Look, I think it's clear if you look at the more we learn, had the justice system operated the way it should have, she could never have become the Democratic nominee.
Ever. Correct.
Ever. But she wouldn't even become the nominee. You'd have had a wide open race for the nomination because she would have been literally driven out of politics by the totality of her corruption.
Any other American would go to jail, which was my point. If you hand over your phones to Robert Mueller in itsy-bitsy pieces, good luck to you. You're done. You're finished. And then,
but this tells you why the people like Strzok were doing what they were doing. They all believed she would win, and they all believed the corruption would continue.
Let's get back to our phones. Lloyd is in Columbus, Ohio, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Lloyd, how are you? Glad you called, sir.
Good afternoon, Speaker, and I do appreciate you taking the call. Most of Americans, including myself, feel very disingenuous against what's happening. You've got the prosecutor, who's the DOJ, in there, and they've got both people. The FBI director basically said that, he's more concerned about the employees, the judges, the prosecutors instead of the American public. I think the American public is the ones that they work for. The American public wants the truth. And we don't want politics in justice.
No, look, you are 100% right. And the fact is, you can't have a justice system without justice. The whole process, if you think about it for a second, don't tell me you care about the morale of your employees if that means you're going to protect people who are breaking the law. I don't want people who are breaking the law to have high morale. I want them to be worried. I mean, I think they should have. The fact that the McCabe is taking the Fifth Amendment tells you something. The fact that Comey won't even dignify by trying to show up. I mean, the degree to which Comey is lying to the whole country and is arrogantly assuming we're all too stupid to know what he's doing is sort of breathtaking.
Do you know what everybody says? The Clintons always get away with it, Mr. Speaker. Always. No matter, the evidence could be overwhelming, incontrovertible. The double standard, it can't be any more clear. A two-tiered justice system, no equal application of the law, and the Clintons skate. I mean, from my mind, knowing what we know, she should be charged today.
Yes, I think she should be charged. I think her associates should be charged. But I have to say, at the risk of maybe being inappropriately lighthearted about this, on the other hand, every day she and Bill have to look at each other and realize she lost. She'll never be president. He'll never be back in the White House. It's over. And that living that out the rest of their life may be as great a punishment as anything you and I can imagine.
All right, Speaker Gingrich, his book signing tonight, Barnes & Noble. It's in Ashburn, Virginia, and it's in 2 hours and 10 minutes. If you want to head on over, he'll be giving a speech and a book signing, Barnes & Noble, Ashburn, Virginia. It's up on my website right now, Hannity.com. His bestseller just out, Trump's America, The Truth About Our Nation's Great Comeback. And by the way, the admonitions and warnings, including fake news, for the president that he has to deal with this crap every day. Mr. Speaker, have fun tonight at Barnes & Noble. Thank you for taking some calls and spending a little extra time with us. We appreciate it.
It's always exciting. Thanks. Talk to you soon.